Hello everyone. Welcome to Confessions Jury, where people put themselves on the spot, waiting for your judgment. Sit comfortably and listen carefully, as you're about to hear today's cases. You hold the hammer and you apply the law. Let us have your verdict down in the comments section. As always, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Let's head on to our first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for cutting off my family, parents for leaving on a trip when I was being induced to deliver my stillborn son? I was 28 weeks pregnant with my second child, my son, when he passed and I had to schedule an induction. My parents were to leave on a trip/cruise the day before. This trip was booked before I even became pregnant. They told me they couldn't cancel because they booked this trip with a group of relatives and were worried that these relatives would get lost without them. I acknowledged that I never spoke up to ask them to stay. I didn't want to beg anyone to be there for me. My parents were supposed to watch our daughter, 7, when it was time for the birth. Since this was sudden and with my parents leaving, we were scrambling to arrange care. I was in the hospital for 3 days. My cousins came to visit and my parents called, thanked them for being there for me, explaining that they couldn't cancel their trip. It felt wrong that my parents were thanking other people for being there for me during the most traumatic time of my life. Nothing could ever make me get on a flight and leave my daughter if she was going through this. My parents were also posting pictures and videos on social media the entire length of their trip, knowing what I was going through back home. My parents came home from their trip a week before the funeral. I didn't talk to them at all. I answered one of my mom's calls and said I'd consider forgiving them if they both apologize. She said sorry and that her trip was terrible because she lost her luggage, that if she could do it over again she wouldn't go because of her lost luggage. I told her they're bad parents and I haven't picked up another one of her calls since. My dad hasn't tried to reach out. Some context, my parents also weren't here when my daughter was born. They went on a trip which they booked after I was pregnant and left 2 days before my due date. I had an emergency C-section and complications with that delivery. I'm the eldest of 3 and my parents have always treated me differently, worse. My sister is the golden child. This is not to diminish the childhood trauma my siblings experienced on their own. My sister and her fiancé think I'm being harsh/an AH. They think this one thing doesn't make them bad parents. My sister's fiancé says he wouldn't have canceled the trip. They don't think my parents being there for me would have made a difference. When I said this is the worst thing my parents have done to me, they disagreed. I felt invalidated by them, so I cut them off. They can't understand why I've cut them off, and say they were questioning me to understand my feelings and trying to help me get over it by sharing their perspectives. My sister said she likes hearing others' perspectives and opinions, so I guess I should too. They don't get how my anger towards my parents is part of my grief. So am I the bad person for being mad at my parents for not canceling their trip that was booked well before I was pregnant? Am I the bad person for cutting off my sister and her fiancé for voicing their opinions? What do you guys think? Lay down your ruling in the comments section and let's move on to our next story. Case 2. Am I the bad person for only taking care of my younger siblings and not my 2 younger half-siblings? I have younger twin siblings who are 11. When the twins were 1, our mom died. Dad checked out and I had to step up. I was only 6 at the time and I didn't do things perfectly, and Dad did at least make sure we had food in the house. But I was walking to the bus stop alone and leaving the babies with him all day since he stopped working for the most part. I don't know how he met his wife, but she came along 4 years later and then she was pregnant and then they got married and they had a kid together who's now 5 and then another one 2 years later who's 3. My dad and his wife are in bed when me and my siblings leave for school. I get the twins up and get them breakfast and we leave. I never wake up my halves or take care of them. Honestly, I don't even say I have half siblings when people ask. I only mention the twins, and most of my friends, their parents and my teachers don't even know my dad got married or had more kids. And I don't care about the other kids. I love my siblings. But I never felt that way about the kids Dad had with his wife. The oldest started school, and I guess because she was late so much, my dad and his wife were complaining about how much trouble they're in over it, and they asked why I'm able to get me and the twins to school, but I don't touch the other two. I said those two are their responsibility and I won't be stepping up like I did with the twins. My dad's wife asked me why, and I said because those two have two parents alive and the twins, and I lost our mom, who apparently is the only parent out of the three of them. They told me to shut up, and I said even dead my mom is better than them. I'm pretty sure right now we live off dad's wife's disability and the social security money dad gets from me and the twins. Our grandma used to be able to help us and even bought us phones to help us communicate. But she got really sick and now she doesn't always remember us and she can't take care of herself anymore. She's the only family left from mom's side since grandpa died when mom was little too. But anyway, I guess there's been complaints and stuff about the 5-year-old showing up late to school. A social worker called to our house 3 times, and I told her what was going on, but nothing happened except for Dad and his wife needing to appear in court, and then things went back to normal. They did get a neighbor to start taking the 5-year-old, but she isn't usually dressed or anything, and my dad and his wife stay in bed until 11 or 12 most days. Honestly, it's every day unless they need to get up, like when they went to court or when they go out to cash the checks they get. My dad's wife confronted me a few days ago about taking care of the twins, but not her two, and how I act like the 3 of us are living alone. I said that's because we basically are, and I'm not taking responsibility for her kids. She said she could kick us out, and I told her we'd probably be better off. But then she had a light bulb moment, and I guess she realized we're bringing in more money because of the Social Security. I've given up on being removed by Child Protective Services, so I'm doing my best to make a life for me and the twins so when I'm 18 I can afford a place for us. Hopefully. Am I the bad person for not taking care of the other two though? What do you guys think of this one? Let us know in the comments section, and let's move on to our next story. Case 3. Am I the bad person for not wanting to give up our dog? My wife and I met 8 years ago. At the time, she had just moved into her first townhome. About 6 months later, she gets a rescue puppy that's about 3 months old, Lab/Shepherd mix. At the time, I wasn't a huge fan of her getting this dog. It's a big commitment, but we have only been dating for 6 months, and we didn't live together, so who am I to say anything? As the years go on, we end up getting engaged, then married, and at this moment in time, we have 2 kids under 2 in a house that we own together. During my wife's first pregnancy, about 2-ish years ago, she suddenly grew very annoyed/frustrated with our dog. Our dog is very friendly, very loving/cuddly, doesn't bark, is great/gentle around other dogs/kids/etc. However, our dog is a massive shedder, and my wife is a bit of a clean freak. There is dog hair everywhere, every day, no matter how often we vacuum/clean. Ever since she became pregnant with our first child, she seems to have hyper-focused on the dirtiness of our dog. Now, at this point, she can't stand the sight of our dog around the house. To this day, she will say the dog is too much of a shedder, is filthy, and is constantly in the way when she's walking around the house, and she wants our dog gone. She hasn't mentioned any specifics of how she wants to get rid of our dog, a shelter, etc., but she doesn't want to give her away to someone we know. In my opinion, I realize she is overwhelmed by the amount of shedding our dog is capable of. However, I don't think that should be a cause to get rid of her. If she knew lab mixes were shedding dogs, I don't understand why she picked a dog that would shed so much to begin with, and it makes me think she didn't think the adoption through. Am I the bad person for refusing to get rid of our family dog, even though the dog stresses out/overwhelms my wife? Can't wrap my head around that story. What do you think? Who is in the wrong there? Let us know down in the comments section, and let's move on to our last case. Case 4. Am I the bad person for dumping my BF after he accused me of cheating for no reason? My BF has been acting distant and cold for a few weeks, and he has been using his work. He works in a very relaxed field and can just not go to work any day he wishes, or depression as an excuse. But 2 days ago, when I finally called him to talk to him about this thoroughly after he didn't even message me for New Year's, He told me he didn't message me because he assumed our relationship wasn't that serious, and then admitted he was wondering if I had been going on dates with other men. He has been replying to my texts late to the point it'd take 10 hours to a day to get a reply from him, but if I didn't read his texts in a few hours because I worked night shift or was busy with my studies, he'd send me weird sad emojis and keep asking if I'm out and which friend I was with and where I was in specific details. I haven't done anything to make him suspicious. I don't even have male friends I see on the regular, and I obviously didn't cheat. He was the one who wanted to get in a relationship with me and be exclusive, so obviously I was shocked when he not only told me we weren't serious, but also accused me of cheating. You've sat down, you've listened. Now, it's time to state your ruling. What is it gonna be? Let us have it down in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more cases like these. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.